Today on Judge Faith, these two former BFFs battle it out over dollar bills.
I'm a tax preparer and I'm an adult entertainer. So I dance full-time and I do taxes seasonally.
So you have no problem counting those dollar bills is what you're telling me?
Oh, I count money very well. If I can't do nothing else, I know how to count.
Okay.
And later, he says she put herself in the poorhouse.
Shannon had a history of not paying money.
But she says what he did next will deliver him to the doghouse.
He kicked my dog so hard.
The reason I was there at the duplex was part of the eviction process. I had to post a
the two
notice.
of you weren't getting along, and all of a sudden, after all the times you've been over there, now all of a sudden Abby wants to attack you, so much so that you have to kick her in the head.
Faith Jenkins. Her distinguished legal career began when she graduated first in her law school class. She quickly became a tough New York City prosecutor and then a preeminent legal analyst on cable news. And now she's the judge in her own courtroom. Her cases are real and her rulings are final. She is Judge Faith. Licensed tax preparer and adult entertainer Casey Watson says her former BFF is too cheap to cough up the tax preparation fee she owes the plaintiff. Defendant Marlana Manoy says her former friend came to her house 3 times demanding money. Marlana claims she doesn't owe a dime until she gets her tax refund.
Remain seated and come to order. Court is now in session. The Honorable Judge Faith Jenkins presiding. Your Honor, this is Watson versus Manoy.
Thank you, Barbara. Ms. Watson, you were suing the defendant Marlana Manoy for $600. You say she didn't pay you for preparing her 2013 tax return.
Correct.
Tell me about your case.
My so-called friend, Marlana Manoy, called me up. This was my second year doing her taxes. She says, hey, Casey, can you do my taxes? I say, sure. I go over to her house in February.
Well, how did the two of you meet?
Well, we lived in the same apartment complex. We were neighbors, and we became very good friends throughout the time that we lived in the same apartment community. And we stayed in touch once both of us had moved and went our separate ways.
So you are a tax preparer. That's what you do for a living?
Yes, ma'am. I'm a tax preparer, and I'm an adult entertainer. And I've actually gotten one of the adult entertainment clubs that I work at to contract with the tax company so that girls can file their taxes and everything. So I dance full-time, and I do taxes seasonally. And I've been doing taxes since, like, 2006.
So you have no problem counting those dollar bills is what you're telling me?
Oh, I count money very well. If I can't do nothing else, I know how to count.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So what happened? How did you come to this agreement to do the defendant's taxes?
So anyways, when she calls me up, I'm like, hey, Marlena, I'm like, you do hair and everything. Why don't you let me do your taxes? I've been doing taxes for a while. I used to work for a particular company. They taught me very well. I could probably get you more refund than whoever's been doing yours. She's like, okay, cool. I'll give you a chance. I do her taxes. I'm like, it's going to be $600. The $600 that I'm charging you includes audit service, peace of mind, which is like an insurance. Like, if I need a copy of your tax return for the next 3 years, I will provide you one. If you need help with anything with your taxes, anything with the IRS, I'll go down there, talk with you.
Do the two of you sign a written agreement?
Yes, ma'am, and I have the contract as well.
Okay, let me see a copy of that. So at some point, you say that the defendant did not pay you.
Yes,
correct?
Okay.
So what happened?
This whole case is based off the fact that she does not trust me, that she does not believe that what happened has happened.
Why didn't you pay her the $600?
Because I never received my money. My check was stolen en route. Initially, what happened?
Your IRS refund check was stolen?
Okay, yes, ma'am. And it's currently under investigation. I have the paperwork at hand. What happened was initially, it was to be direct deposited. And when it was going to be direct deposited, I had called my bank to ask them questions about certain things other than the transaction for the direct deposit. Now, that particular account was inactive for about 4 months. I was not notified that my account was closed. So I immediately called Casey and I told her that they need me to come down to the bank because they can't get any information from the computer. I have to present my identification. And I actually called her while I was in the bank.
So your account was closed at the bank, so the IRS could not do direct deposit.
Right.
So what happened? So they mailed you a physical check.
Right.
And what happened then?
I never received the check. We both went down to the IRS office, and she heard everything that they had to say, that they were supposed to mail it March 11th, and I would receive it no later than March 24th.
But that wasn't her fault that you didn't receive the check. She did do your taxes, right?
Yeah, she did it. She did a great job.
So why didn't you pay her? Why didn't you pay her?
I could not pay her because the check never came. And into the agreement in our contract, it said when the money was received, that's when I would pay her.
So the issue was that the IRS had to mail her a physical check, and she's saying the check was stolen, that you never actually received it.
Right.
So did you
After they
report that
mailed
to
it.
the IRS?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
You don't think that her check was stolen?
No,
Okay.
this is before the check. That's only even how she got to a check. Then I say, look, I'm gonna come get you. I'm gonna take you down to the IRS. I say, do you have a couple of dollars for gas you can give me? Her so-called senile aunt that's been cursing me out and doing all the talking for her.
My 82-year-old would never curse anybody out.
There's nothing wrong with her aunt. Her aunt stands up and walks around the house like the bailiff, and she says the lady's on the deathbed, ma'am.
No, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
She doesn't know
All right.
anything about
her
Where's
aunt has answered the phone several times and cursed me out. And look, we're not thieves.
She never
Marlena's gonna
used
pay you your
profanity.
money. Yes, she
She
did.
has
And all
never
I
used
ever did was tell
profanity.
that. Well, when I say cursing me out, even though she didn't use a cuss word out her mouth, she got nasty and ugly with me and went on a rampage with me for about 10 minutes.
Because she was constantly coming to my house.
I came to her
she
house
was
3
big,
times, Your Honor.
unannounced.
She's not
no, ma'am.
answering. Okay,
More than
listen,
3
Your
times.
Hold on
Honor,
a
she's
second.
not answering the phone. She's not communicating. Okay, she just told you. I filed the lawsuit on May the 5th. She didn't even contact the IRS to June. I came to her house 3
Because
times.
there's a certain
All
allotment.
right, you owe me money. You're not contacting me. You're not telling me
Do you
anything.
think she got the check and she's just not
And I'm
paying
gonna
you?
tell you why.
All right.
Coming up on Judge Faith, did an unpaid tax bill cause this friendship to go broke?
You're not calling me. You're not communicating. You just want me to take your word. We signed a contract. Her first word to me is, oh, you know how the IRS do. They say they mailed it out on that day.
I see so many of these cases, and whenever I have a case where people come in and they say, I'm gonna pay you when I get my tax refund, it never happens.
And later, her bad behavior and his terrible temper put this poor pup in the middle of a bitter eviction battle.
I told Shannon again to get your dog under control. It's
And
coming
then you
at me.
kicked her in the
I
head.
kicked at it again.
Kicked her in the
missed.
head.
I've heard enough about that.
Casey Watson says her former BFF is too cheap to cough up the tax preparation fee she owes the plaintiff. Defendant Marlana Monoy claims she doesn't owe a dime until she gets her tax refund.
Ma'am, please go on.
When March the 11th rolls around, when I'm the one who took her to the IRS when they told her they was gonna mail her check on March the 11th and where it was gonna go to. I say, Marlena, all right, cool, we cool. They're gonna mail it out on March the 11th. Around the 1st of April, I'm like, have you got the check? Her first word to me is, oh, you know how the IRS do. They say they mailed it out on that day. They
I don't
ain't
talk
mailed nothing.
like that,
It's gonna
first of
take
all.
the whole 6 weeks. I
First
say,
of all,
so,
I'm
hold
not
on,
ghetto and I don't talk
I said,
like
so
that.
you're calling the IRS a lie? You gonna say they didn't mail your check out on the 11th when they said they was gonna do it? The next time I go by her house, I'm like, I don't have your number anymore. Have you heard from the IRS? What's going on? Keep in mind, Your Honor, I didn't
Funny,
taxes
'cause I
in
got a text
February,
and
but
a
now
phone
we're in
call
June.
later that evening.
You're not calling me. You're not communicating. You just want me to take your word. We signed the contract. The contract said upon receipt. You received it in February when it went to your bank and it was sent back.
Did the IRS do
They
an
said-
investigation? What did they find out happened to your check? Did they find out anything about that?
Yes, ma'am.
Tell me about that.
Well, all they sent me was the copy of the check and the forms for me to officially claim that that was not me that gave permission to cash the check, that I was not the one that cashed the check. The check was cashed at a super Walmart. It was deposited in an account at a super Walmart in Lexington, South Carolina on April 3rd at 11:05 a.m. I have not been to Lexington, South Carolina.
And according to you, someone forged your signature
Yes,
on
ma'am.
the check to cash it?
Yes, ma'am.
And
Out her
you never saw the money at all?
I never saw the money.
And that's why you haven't paid the plaintiff?
Exactly.
Why would you agree to allow someone to defer payment to you until after they've received their income tax return
Because that's
refund?
what, yes, ma'am.
Because let me tell you, I see so many of these cases, and whenever I have a case where people come in and they say, I'm gonna pay you when I get my tax refund, it never happens.
Okay, can I
It
tell you
never
why, Your
happens.
Honor?
People don't pay when they get their tax
Can
refunds.
I tell you why?
Okay.
First off, me and her were friends.
I
This
wouldn't
is
really
not my
consider us
first-
to be friends at all.
You don't consider us to be friends? Then
We had a
okay, hold
rapport.
on.
We had a
Hold
rapport,
on.
and we were
When did we
neighbors.
stop being friends? We wasn't friends, so when your gave you the STD and you hit the doctor stuck his arm up your stomach and you had just birthed your baby and cried on my shoulder, I wasn't your friend? When I used to
Miss
come to your
Watson.
house 3 or 4 days
Miss
out the week,
Watson,
I wasn't
Miss
your
Watson,
friend?
talk to me.
Okay.
Talk to
Ma'am.
me.
Yes, ma'am. So anyways, Your Honor, I had done her tax return before. This was my 2nd year doing it. We never had a problem. You being my friend, I trusted your word. That's when I said, well, when it's deposited to your bank, pay me. If I would have known her
Or
bank
when the
account was
money
not
is
open,
received. I
could've-
have not yet received the money.
This is interesting because you drafted this contract, and the agreement was when the money was deposited in her account, then that's when you get paid.
And that was in February.
But That's not what the contract states. The contract actually states that the defendant agrees to pay you, Casey Watson, $600 on or around February 27, 2014, or upon deposit of a federal refund check.
Can I explain to you what that
No,
means?
ma'am. Please don't interrupt me.
Yes, ma'am.
What that means is you agreed to pay her by
Yes,
a
ma'am.
certain date with no conditions upon that, or you would pay when you got your federal refund check, one or the other. So the fact that you did not receive your refund check as you claim that you were defrauded, I don't know if that's true, I don't know if that's the case, doesn't matter because this contract says you owe her the money by February 27th anyway. So you owe her the $600 and you have to pay her the $600. I don't know what happened to your refund check. You can take that up with the IRS.
I have my paperwork
You
that's
owe her
under
$600
investigation.
no matter what based on this contract. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $600.
Thank you. And do I get my court costs, Your Honor? And do I get my court costs, Your Honor?
Yeah, they'll give it to you.
Thank you so much, Judge Faith Jenkins.
Plaintiff Bill Meeker says he thought he was helping the defendant when she was down on her luck by loaning her nearly $5,000. But now she's refusing to pay him back. Defendant Shannon Pinckney says she doesn't owe Bill anything because he injured her dog. She's countersuing for vet bills.
Okay, Bill Meeker.
Yes.
You are suing the defendant Shannon Pinckney for $4,400 for a loan you said the defendant failed to repay you.
Yes.
And Ms. Pinckney, you are countersuing for $5,000 for vet bills. You say the plaintiff kicked your dog and injured him?
Yes.
Okay,
he did.
Mr. Meeker, we'll start with you. What happened, sir?
In fall of 2013, she quit paying the rent.
Yeah, I quit
So
paying my
I
rent.
manage the property for somebody else. It's my responsibility to collect the rent. That's what we have rentals for. We worked with her. She was late dozens of times. We still let her slide and tried to make arrangements for her to be in there. A couple of weeks before she was going to be actually evicted, she came to me and begged me to stay in the place.
I begged to stay in a dump. Come on.
Because her daughter was going to graduate this past summer and she wanted to stay in there. She hadn't gone back to work yet because of her cancer and stuff like that.
Were you ill, Ms. Pinckney?
I was diagnosed soon after I moved into the duplex where I lived for 4 years, actually.
What were you diagnosed with? If you
I
don't
had
mind me
breast
asking?
cancer.
Okay. Are you doing better now?
I am. I'm in remission. Thank
Okay,
you.
I'm glad to hear that. Do you still live in the same apartment
heavens,
duplex?
no.
Okay. Okay, so you don't contest that you signed this agreement and this is what you agreed to, correct?
That he loaned me
That's
the
a
money?
yes or no
Yes.
question.
Oh, thank you, Your Honor.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. There's a handwritten note at the bottom of this agreement that talks about a 1962 Chevy truck. What was the agreement about collateral involving this truck?
Because Shannon had a history of not paying money, not having a job, and not being able to have any money, I told her that nobody would ever make a loan without some kind of collateral. She reminded me about a truck that was in her driveway previously and said that she would be glad to give it as security for the loan. I said that that would be agreeable. I would loan the money if she would sign over the pink slip to me as security. As a clarification, just to make sure that she could get the truck back because it's worth more than the $4,400.
Way more.
I also added a little thing on the bottom that you can read there that says if she pays me the money back, then I'll be glad to transfer the title back into her name. There was no question about me taking the title,
Not true.
transferring it into my name, and subsequently transferring it back to Shannon after she had paid me.
So what happened?
Okay,
hold on
here's
one second.
the problem, though. You put it in your name before the contract was even due, before the note was due.
Ms.
You
Pinckney,
That's the whole
Ms. Pinckney,
idea of
I want you to
security.
explain to me what you're talking about. So there was an agreement that the truck would be turned over to the plaintiff if you didn't pay the full amount on or before May 20th, 2014. You're saying he signed the title over to himself before that date?
Correct.
And why did you do that, sir?
When it looked like she wasn't going to be as creditworthy as we had hoped she would, I went ahead and finalized my security by transferring it into my name.
Next on Judge Faith, one of these performances is about to get canceled.
I asked Shannon to control it. She did not do it. I kicked at it and missed.
He kicked her and caught her right underneath here in her chin, so it made her brain swell.
Plaintiff Bill Meeker loaned the defendant nearly $5,000 that she is refusing to pay back. Defendant Shannon Pinckney says she doesn't know anything because the plaintiff injured her dog. She's countersuing for vet bills.
And you didn't take possession of the truck ever, right?
That's correct.
Okay. And where was the truck during this time period?
When he did that, probably in my driveway.
Did you turn over the truck to him as part of this agreement?
Absolutely not.
Why?
Because he came by my house in January. He kicked my dog so hard in the head that she had seizures for 3 weeks.
And that's your counterclaim.
That is my counterclaim.
Tell me about that.
He physically kicked her so hard.
This is all a lie.
It's a
You
lie.
saw
Did
that
you
for
hear?
yourself?
Huh?
You saw that?
I did see it. I saw it. A neighbor saw it. Another neighbor saw it.
Why did you kick her dog?
Because the dog attacked me. I'll be glad to talk about that.
Oh,
Abby
Okay.
attacked you? Do we have a picture of
First-
Abby? I want to see
Yeah.
this attack dog.
Please.
Okay, and this is Abby?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Vicious.
Abby is a
This
cute
This looks
dog
like a really small dog.
and
She
a
is
friendly
small.
dog, only about maybe 15 inches or so.
She is not, you mean tall or
Yeah.
long? Okay.
Well, fat, it's fatter, but
Okay, fat, whatever.
but
Oh, yeah. She's
but-
definitely going to hurt you.
Shannon did not always have that dog. She says 4 years. That's a lie.
Well,
too.
what
had that dog
happened?
since
What
she's been
happened, sir?
born.
Why did you kick the dog?
The dog was at the house, suddenly appeared at the house. When I asked her about, because it's contrary to the rental agreement for her to have a dog,
So why did you kick the dog?
because the dog attacked me. The dog.
How did the dog attack you, sir?
A few weeks before that, Shannon had told me she was keeping the dog for her friend was in prison. She had taken it to the vet 2 or 3 times at a cost of several $100s because it was having seizures.
What did he do to her?
He kicked her and caught her right underneath here in her chin, and it jarred her head back, so it made her brain swell. She had horrible seizures.
What happened when you took Abby to the vet?
We took her to the vet almost instantly. The neighbor who actually saw it said, "You need to get her in," because she looked almost confused, actually, like she didn't know where she was going. I have a video of what actually happened to her, an actual seizure that we taped for the vet. Not knowing we would end up here, I still have the video.
Okay, let's watch the video. Tell me what's happening here.
What's the date of this video?
Don't interrupt.
She still has those. We had to time them. We had to wait 5 minutes. And as you can see, she's clearly not, she's having a seizure there and she's not being vicious. She's just, we had to wait 5 minutes before we could give her a shot to make that stop.
The reason I was there at the duplex was part of the eviction process. I had to post a
The two
notice.
of you weren't getting along. You were going over there about an eviction, and all of a sudden, after all the times you've been over there, now all of a sudden Abby wants to attack you, so much so that you have to kick her in the head.
She ran, yes, because she was under medication.
No.
That's what the vet bills were for, and that's what you told me they were for, and you told my handyman and me that she was aggressive
Bill,
because of the
you came
medication.
and you kicked
At
my
any
dog
rate,
in the head, and she did
ran out
nothing
of the
to you.
garage at me. I asked Shannon to control it. She did not do it. I kicked at it and missed.
Good
The dog
thing.
ran back about 6, 8, 10 feet. And I told Shannon again to get your dog under control. It's
And
coming
then you
at me.
kicked her in the
I
head.
kicked at it
You
again
kicked her
and
in the
missed.
head.
I've heard enough about that.
And now, Judge Faith rules.
I don't think that the dog was attacking you and that you kicked that dog because you were defending yourself from a vicious attack. After looking at the photos, after looking at the video of the dog, I just don't believe you. I don't believe you. And in looking at all of your vet bills as well, I'm not sure that he's responsible for the full amount of $5,000, but you do bear some responsibility because I think you injured this dog and the dog suffered blunt force trauma because you kicked the dog, and I think you were angry. You were going over there, you guys were in the middle of an eviction,
Well, it's not
and,
true.
and you kicked the dog because you were upset.
That's not true.
Well, I think it is true.
Definitely true.
Okay.
On your claim against the defendant, I find that she did default on this agreement and that she does owe you $4,400 per your agreement. On your counterclaim, however, I find that the plaintiff did kick your dog and intentionally try to injure your dog, and it actually resulted in injury to your dog. So I find in your favor in the amount of $2,500.
Thank you, Your Honor.
So that means, sir, that there is a net judgment in your favor in the amount of $1,900 verdict for the plaintiff.